Excellent. Well, we should now be live. So good afternoon, everybody, and happy Friday on what is hopefully a nice sunny afternoon wherever you are in the world. You probably guessed first and foremost, this is not Joan speaking. My name is Nick Ramsey, and I'm also one of the directors on the board for the eLearning network. So thank you so much for joining today's session. I have with me Colin McEwan and Alan McLean from eCom Scotland, who are going to be talking through kind of the impact of mobile learning and some of the ways that that can be kind of embedded and included in your digital learning strategy. Just a couple of kind of housekeeping things for me just before we get started. So you will see, and I can see many of you voting, which is fantastic. There's a little poll down the side around eLearning membership, and also just whether you're happy to receive communications from the folks at eCom Scotland post webinar. So if you can maybe pop a vote on that, that would be fantastic. Also towards the end of the session, I'll also be launching up an evaluation poll as well. So again, if you're joining us throughout the session, if you can maybe vote in that, that would be much appreciated. Now, the gents at eCom Scotland have asked if you don't mind, if you've got any questions or anything else that you want to know, if you can submit those through the Q&A box that will be in the control panel, or bar rather, along the bottom of your screen. And then we'll run through those questions once the guys have got through the kind of core of their presentation. That being said, I will also be monitoring the chat box as well. So if anyone has any kind of immediate things, if you have any audio issues, if you can't hear any of us, or more likely if you can't understand any of us, because there's 3 Scottish gentlemen speaking today, so we'll do our very best to keep it slow and controlled, then yeah, please fire away and go into the chat. But yes, I will now hand over to Colin and Alan, who will be talking you through. So yeah, take away when you're ready, gents.
Hi, thanks everybody. It's certainly sunny where we are here in Dunfermline today. My name is Colin McEwan, and I'm a learning technology consultant with eCom Scotland. I've worked with eCom for just about 5 years now, and previously to that I had a lengthy career with educational publishing where I was focusing on digital solutions for a global publisher.
Hi, contrary to what Nick was saying, it's actually Doug Brown here. I'm a senior designer at eCom Scotland. I've been working here for just over 2 years. Before this, I worked as a freelance designer for a few years on various web-related content. And prior to that, I worked for another e-learning company for about 9 years, specializing in medical seminars.
Thanks, Doug. Today, we're going to chat about mobile learning and explore its place alongside more established L&D solutions. According to Statista, the number of mobile phone users in 2017.
Slight technical issue here.
Sorry, we're having problems with our slides.
Try again. There you go.
According to Statista, the number of mobile phone users in 2017 was estimated at just under a massive 5 billion. It's a trend that doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon, and it's not really surprising that mobile continues its popularity growth and looks likely to smash through 5 billion this year. At eCom, we've also experienced our customers' interest in mobile steadily increasing the past few years too. And now mobile is a normal consideration of any project we work on. But where or how does mobile fit with established L&D solutions, such as face-to-face, so that your workshop, your classroom sessions, or maybe somebody's at your desk, as a colleague. Self-learning, this is where people are doing e-learning, or maybe they've had the dreaded training manual thrown at them. I'm sure we've all experienced that. And there's other types of resources such as presentations and PowerPoints, which are all very common in the workplace. Informal is also a large part in these days, plays a big role in what we do. For example, somebody shouting across the office for a reminder on how to process an invoice, that's still learning. So where and how for mobile? Well, maybe we first need to consider how we define mobile learning. The screen you're seeing now is how the Oxford English Dictionary defines mobile. It's able to move or be moved freely or easily. The definition also provides a few examples. So anyone who grew up in the countryside like me will definitely relate to a mobile library visits once a fortnight. And also maybe similar to me, those who are of a certain age may remember when a cup of tea came from the mobile canteen. The dictionary says about these two examples that they are accommodated in a vehicle so as to travel around and serve various places. Considering the above definitions from a learning perspective, and it's easy to see, what can be applied. As a child, we had a fish fan that visited our village every Friday morning, so yes, I did have fish on a Friday. However, if you think about it, if your mobile shop or library was actually the mobile phone and the service was e-learning or learning, then there shouldn't be a need to wait until a specific day or time for the delivery of the learning. It's accessible when it's required, needed, or when it's wanted. So back to the original definition. And freely and easily is something which has to apply to mobile learning. It's almost expected from mobile users now that not only is something available when they want it, but importantly in a format which is easy to use and digest. In the Kleiner, Perkins, Caulfield and Byers, it's a bit of a mouthful, annual Internet Trends Report, the time spent on the internet and a mobile in 2016 was just over 3 hours a day. Only 5 years ago, it was less than 1 hour a day. So the growth of mobile and the behaviour of the consumer has changed quite remarkably during this period. This year's report is due out actually very soon, so it'll really be interesting to see the results for 2017 and, if things have continued on the trend that they have in recent years. But if we want to compare the old favourites for accessing the internet, the joint desktop and laptop usage was 2.2 hours a day. The time spent accessing the internet on a desktop and laptop has been pretty static in that 5-year period, seeing only a small reduction of time. So this puts the mobile way out in front as a chosen method for accessing content on the internet. So how do all these trends, the growth and popularity of mobile, translate into mobile learning? We are experiencing with the businesses that we work with that there is a move away from mobile learning being solely an e-learning course on a mobile. There is now more demand for self-paced and on-demand learning, which is broken into smaller micro items of learning. We'll talk about the learning content in mobile shortly. However, mobile technology is also an enabler and is used to provide solutions to challenges where previous solutions may not have existed, or maybe the solutions in place had not been as effective as required. As an example, there are large areas of Africa and Asia where mobile is the principal device used to access the internet. In some locations, desktops or laptops aren't even available and not used at all. So mobile technology and solutions can therefore be utilised and designed to reach areas where the previous solution was most likely paper-based, if one even existed at all. One complex mobile solution which we designed did just that and now allows for rapid reaction and delivery of content, including formal exams, to remote and challenging environments, and does it in a far more secure and controlled method than the previous solution. This has had a huge positive impact to the learners and the organisation too, and it's also led to improved efficiencies and qualities to the learners and to the quality of work and the learning which is being consumed. Mobile learning technologies can now make anytime, anywhere learning a reality, and also helping learners take charge of their own learning and their own development of new skills. We are now seeing how mobile can be used as an efficient method for capturing evidence. One recent interesting project we have been fortunate to have been involved with was how mobile technology could be used to capture evidence for apprenticeships whose majority of work and skills development are out in the field. So in this case, the apprentices are working in waterways in remote areas of Scotland, in an environment where there aren't any desktops or laptops to access, and where internet connectivity is not stable, it's not reliable, and sometimes it's even non-existent. However, there was a need to be able to assess the work of the apprentices and to deliver a daily learning structure to them, as well as being able to provide a method for the apprentices to ask questions and to capture their own individual experiences and evidence. So using mobile technology, this is all possible. We designed a solution which allowed the apprentices to be able to record and evidence their own learning progress. For example, there's a functionality that allows apprentices to enter text, take pictures, record audio and video, and then upload their evidence to their learning record. Through the same technology, the apprentices' work can be monitored and evaluated with tutors able to answer questions and assess the learner's evidence. There are many advantages here. The audio and video allow the apprentices to talk through what they have done, the rationale and why they have done it. But importantly, the mobile technology helps overcome another challenge. So what if there is no internet connection available? So the mobile technology in this case, we created an offline solution which allows the safe capture of information. This means that all the learner's evidence can be saved and stored locally, and when they have a stable internet connection, the upload of the information can then be completed into the learning system. Whether we like it or not, mobiles are really starting to influence the established LED solutions too. It's now unlikely that you will be at a workshop, classroom or conference without somebody taking a mobile out to take a picture of the flip chart, the work produced by the group, or maybe it's an informative charter graph that is appearing on the screen. It's very possible that somebody's already done that, in this webinar. But mobile could also be used to ask more experienced peers a quick question. It could possibly be about how to process that invoice, which is in a less disruptive and discreet manner than shouting across the office. So using this kind of technology allows questions, information to be archived and searchable. So if the question has already been asked and an answer provided, rather than ask again, another learner simply undertakes a search. So what about learning content? If there is a move away from e-learning courses on a mobile, what learning content is being accessed on a mobile? I mentioned self-paced and on-demand earlier. This is where a variety of content is available to the learner. Maybe rather than reading a few screens from a course, they will listen to a short podcast or audio piece instead. Then learning can easily be consumed, such as when the learner is commuting to and from work. This is becoming a much more popular time to consume learning and information. I'm pretty sure we've all witnessed fellow commuters on the train or the bus immersed in their mobiles. I was on the train yesterday and I looked around the carriage and it was only me and one other person that wasn't looking at a mobile. And it used to be the news headlines or potentially gossip about football signings, but there is a distinct move towards using the commute time as an opportunity for work and learning related content to be consumed. So with mobile, there has come a change in behaviour in how information is consumed. Now we're seeing more bite-sized content and bursts of learning are becoming increasingly popular. So rather than consuming a 60-minute course, many learners now seek out very specific micro chunks of learning from within the course. In the projects which we work on, we are also now very deliberately designing learning content and resources within all the traditional desktop laptop courses. And these resources are designed to be easily accessed on a mobile, but the resources also provide high value to the learner, and especially so if they can download it to their phone to quickly and easily reference when it's required for their own use. The resources could be exam and revision notes or quick tips that can easily be referred to ahead of an exam or an event. The overall consideration to learning content has changed along with the learner's behaviour and technology. Doug's now going to spend a few minutes looking at the learning content from a design perspective and some of the challenges that he faces and the things that he does, to overcome these challenges.
Thanks, Colin. So what are some of the key design considerations? As you start scoping out your mobile learning, there are a few design decisions to be made. Ergonomics of the design. Don't assume that the content lifted from an existing e-learning course would be suitable for a mobile. With mobile learning, there's often a need to restructure information, change the choice of media, and rework images and graphics to make the content work on smaller screens or suit users learning on the move. Make buttons easily accessible for touch and tapping, for instance. Consider how the device would be held in the hand and position elements within the learning within easy reach of, say, of a thumb, for instance. Microlearning. Mobile learning lends itself to just-in-time learning. Users are accessing the content on the go and at a fast pace, as Colin was saying. The growing demands on our time in ensuring that the content is broken down in a manageable bite-sized chunks of learning encourages better engagement. Bite-sized content such as this is very quiz-based and allows the learner to learn on the go and check their knowledge. You can use images instead of paragraphs of text, for instance, to aid engagement and improve the read speed. For example, creating a visual graphic of a really complex system or subject or procedure will engage learners and aid retention as they can associate the images to the procedure quickly without reading a lot of text, which takes time. A picture paints 1,000 words, somebody once said. But remember to make sure that you cater for sight-impaired people by providing such things as alt tags so that the content has a text alternative to the image. iPhones have a feature called VoiceOver for visually impaired, and Voice Assistant is another Android screen reader. Size of content. There's generally an expectation from desktop users that content be made available within 2 seconds. Mobile users are for the moment slightly more patient. However, they are competing with other barriers to learning. With mobile learning, distraction from external stimulations and the lure of social media can hinder progress. So it's important that the content is available at an acceptable speed. You can combat the laggy content by making the digital footprint smaller. Compress your image sizes. Don't use 32-bit color 300 dpi images. You'd be surprised how many people still do this. Doing this will make your content load faster, and your learners won't disappear off to Facebook and for a chat while waiting for a download to complete. Accommodate different learning styles. To compensate for distractions and encourage engagement and retention of knowledge, consideration should be given to the tailoring learning to accommodate different learning styles. A mobile learning platform lends itself to incorporating podcasts, videos, interactive quizzes, ebooks. However, be mindful of the what I call data draw on things such as video and audio content. The user should not be made to pay for that data that you're supplying them in your learning. So ensure that Wi-Fi connectivity is available and free. And finally, test and test and test again. As with the design of any new content or medium involving high levels of technical design, you must test and retest. Establish a testing group We'll give you true data as to how people are using your learning, and finally check the actual content itself. It's vital that the quality is very high to ensure successful learning. That's me. Thank you.
Right. So after all that, and what we're seeing in the trends and things, there's lots of different considerations. There's so many different devices out there. There's different mobile phones. Behaviour's always changing. It's evolving all the time along with technology. So to help ensure your mobile project is a success, just before we finish up, there's 5 things to consider, to help get started, but also to ensure that the project will be a success. So firstly, number 1, have a need. Don't do mobile just because it's fashionable. There needs to be a need. So why do you want mobile? Why do you need mobile? Whatever the need may be, always ask yourself, can mobile bring value, and what value will it bring? It's possible it's the only method for the learner to have access to the internet. Maybe they don't have access to a laptop or desktop. There's actually a trend, mostly in the US at the moment, where employees are being issued with smartphones rather than desktops or laptops. So there's a very obvious need for mobile right there. And secondly, technology. Does your organization have the appropriate technology available? Will learners be using your equipment or their own? So will you need to invest in any equipment, to ensure that learners can access what is being created? So things to consider is you don't want to end up developing something which, suddenly there are barriers to the learner to access it. So it's important to always take a very wholesome look at the technology. Thirdly, usability. Is what you're wanting to do going to be easy and accessible for the learner? So if you think back to the dictionary definition, then things had to be easy and freely available. And like Doug was saying, ensure that the learning experience is positive. Otherwise, it could be a struggle to get engagement and buy-in for your audience. And then they most likely will end up on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. There's a lot of distractions out there, and especially and easily accessible on the mobile.
It's increasing all the time.
And it is increasing. But there's lessons to be learned from success of applications such as Snapchat, and Twitter. It's very small bites, quick information which people are accessing there. So I think it's important to take time to invest and consider the user experience, and what you are intending to do can be done well on a mobile. And again, we don't have to look too far to find some really good examples of what's done well on mobile. We also don't have to look very far to see some really poor examples of what's been done on a mobile. And maybe one example is, say you've got a 3-hour mandatory system software course, which involves intricate looking screens and showing you how to use buttons and functionality. Well, that isn't necessarily going to transfer particularly well over to a mobile, and it's certainly not going to give the best experience to any learner. And any learner taking a course like that on a mobile will probably struggle and need further assistance when they come to using the actual system software. So what does work? So we've spoken quite a bit about micro content, short, sharp resources, audio, video. They all work well on mobile. Doug mentioned other interactions like quizzes are also really effective. And he also touched upon, especially for accessibility, and we've done a lot of work, with R&IB around accessibility, and have a lot of good experience on using the native technology which exists on the mobile and how that can be used to your advantage, with what you're designing. So we would certainly encourage people to consider native technology, what already exists upon the mobile that you can then harbour and take into your project and get value out of it. And importantly, start early. Absolutely start early. As soon as any project is starting up, it's important to start planning as early as possible. And mobile's like that, and especially so for mobile in our experience. If mobile is going to be a consideration, and it's important that it's discussed early, this makes life so much easier for everyone, from a technology perspective or a content perspective. Now, Doug, can talk firsthand how he can spend some time creating designs that are going to, because the content's going to be delivered through a desktop or laptop, only for a decision to be made, several weeks later, hold on a minute, this now needs to go onto a mobile. And, it does require a complete different approach. So it's important that, start planning as soon as possible. And, starting early will help avoid any nasty surprises later on. So it will help avoid scope creep. It will, help avoid any extra development time, and then you've got cost and quality. But the one thing that has the biggest impact if you start early is a positive impact it has on the user experience, because you don't want to compromise the user experience. You want to ensure the best results, because if you don't have a positive user experience, then your project is likely to fail and you're not going to get the same level of engagement. So starting early is certainly something which is going to give you the best opportunity for its success. And that's the end of our presentation. And as Nick said at the beginning, we'd absolutely welcome any questions.
Excellent, thank you very much, guys. Really interesting session there. And apologies, Doug, for getting your name wrong. Nice little rookie mistake from me there right at the beginning. So apologies for that. Any more questions, please either fire them in through the chat or through the Q&A function. Valeria asked if the presentation will be shared afterwards. I'm certainly sure the guys will make the slides available, but there will be, of course, also the recording going up on the eLN's YouTube channel. You also see just down the right hand side there is a little evaluation poll that is running, so if you can maybe just pop your thoughts and responses in there, that would be fantastic. Just to touch upon your point there Doug, about around testing, the importance of testing and quality assurance and so on, to make sure your mobile learning is robust. What type of things is it you guys tend to kind of look for during that testing? I suspect it's probably quite client driven, but are there any kind of repeat themes that you'd recommend that people sort of look out for when looking at their mobile learning content?
Usually we test on different devices, make sure that the browsers can cope with the resizing of the content. That's pretty much what we do, make sure that everything flows correctly. Generally, when you're building these things, you're using some sort of grid system anyway to allow it to reposition itself on a mobile device.
And also part of the quality assurance that we do is, as well as looking at the technical aspects, so like Doug says, does it work on the different devices? And we do encourage people to test on the devices which are known and are going to be used, but we also look at it from the user experience as well. So as well as making sure it functionally works, we sometimes see things, well, hold on a minute, this doesn't work quite as well as what we thought. So we do tweak it, and because we want to ensure it works well technically, but also that the user experience and engagement levels are going to be as high as possible.
We're lucky enough to have our own QA team as well, so it helps. They can go through everything check.
Great, no worries. Thank you very much, guys. Next question is from Matthew Cleghorn, who has asked, when you're considering accessibility, do you test content against kind of WCAG standards, or do you have some other kind of guidelines that you guys use around accessibility?
Yeah, it all depends what the standards the clients are looking for. You know, it could be AAA or AA, you know, standards that we test against. But the work that we do for RNIB, their standards actually exceed all of these. You know, so we actually test much more rigorously than the standards there. But what we're testing on comes from the client and what their demands are.
Sure, excellent. And next question here from Sophie Martin. Sophie would like to know, what kind of technology is it you guys use to develop your mobile learning?
We have our own. We have eLearning Author, one of our own products that we use. It's basically set up. It's based on a Bootstrap grid, so it aids us in terms of resizing the content for different devices. It does it automatically if you set it up, and it has a function where you can remove certain things on smaller devices because you don't want loads and loads of text. You can hide things at lower screen sizes.
Yeah, we also do bespoke as well. So, you know, using Author, it provides the responsive and adaptive, you know, learning and approaches. But you know, if we need to, we, you know, HTML5 and you know the common languages which are used across all devices, and you know, when we're creating our native apps and things, then you know it's commonly used technology which is industry standard and is reliable and we know works.
We usually make the decision once we know what the client is after.
Yeah.
What technology we do use.
That's all part of the scoping out process and the best approach to suit the project.
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much, gents. I think that is us for questions. I really appreciate, thank you very much to everyone for your questions. And thank you very much to both Colin and to Doug, got it right this time, for your for a really, really informative session. As I say, the recording will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to review it, share it, etc., you can do so. Colin, if you can very kindly skip along to the next eLN slide, that would be fantastic.
Yep. Well, and just to say that if anybody has any questions, you know, that they think of after we finish the webinar, which is often the case, then there's some ways in which you can connect up with us directly if you want any questions answered. I'm more than happy to do that as well.
Brilliant.
Slide that you were looking for.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Cheers for that, gents. Just a couple of other eLearning Network bits and pieces. Our next webinar is on the 27th of April, so next week, talking about building a future learning ecosystem, which is presented by Mike Haruska, I think that's how you pronounce it, from the eLearning brothers. So that will be taking place next week and is still open for registration. Next face-to-face events taking place in Brighton on the 31st of May. A bit more details and information will be uploaded to the eLN website soon. You can keep up to date with all kind of goings on and events and everything else as well at elearningnetwork.org, as you can see. And finally, if you are not currently an active member, so some of you obviously might not be full eLearning members as such, you can join. Full year's membership only costs £29, and you can find out about the full benefits of what it means to be an eLearning Network member again on the website. But yeah, thank you so much to Colin and Doug for a fantastic session. Thank you everybody for attending and participating. Hope you all enjoy the sunshine and have a fabulous weekend.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Nick. Thank you.
Cheers, gents. Thank you now.